Hi, just an announcement with my YouTube lives. I'll be trying to spice things up a little bit. I think I'll go through some exams during those lives because a lot of you guys have requested that. And after that, maybe a Q&A and sort of conversational style that we've done in the past. So I'll be announcing the details a bit later in the subsequent weeks, but I think this real exam prep and real-time communication with you guys should be quite helpful. Now, in terms of today's video, I sent out a question thing recently on my Instagram. I'm asking you guys what topics you'd like to see me cover, and I had quite a few comments about wanting to know how to recover from a bad SAC and how to deal with exam stress, so I thought I'd cover that in today's video. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Darren, a first year medical student studying at Monash University here in Melbourne, Australia. For those of you who are new, I graduated last year with an ATAR of 99.95, and you can see my subjects and all that on the screen. In past videos, we've covered a lot of content-heavy topics, such as really breaking down English essays and breaking down a maths exam. But today I thought I'd tackle the mental side of things, which is very important because VCE is high pressure, but at the same time, you guys, sort of like I did, have had lockdowns, but for you guys it's been very inconsistent lockdowns, which has probably taken a toll on your mental health. So hopefully this video in particular can help you guys out. Now, for me, I had really good people to guide me in year 12, so some of you might not have that, and so feel free in that case to leave a comment down below, and really you guys can help each other out in the comments, and I'll be answering to every comment as usual as well. With the structure of today's video, it will be split into 3 parts. In the first part, I'll be talking about moving on from a bad SAC result. In the second part, it's quite a short one. I'll just be addressing ATAR calculators, and I sometimes see on VC discussion space people asking others to comment their SAC scores and their study scores. I'll just be giving my opinion on that. And in the last section of today's video, I'll be talking about how to deal with pressure, in particular for exams and for your ATAR. Enjoy. Firstly, dealing with poor SAC results. Unless you're really lucky, it's highly unlikely that everything will go your way. There's probably been instances where you've already felt disappointment, and I've gotten messages from people who have felt that. And in the future, with your SACs, with your exams, there may be other occasions where you feel like you've underperformed as well. Now, to move on from these disappointments, one thing that I've found really helped me and might help you guys as well is to think of it in this way. The only thing worse than a bad SAC is letting a bad SAC affect your subsequent SACs as well. Now, avoiding this flow-on effect is very important for times where you have SACs in really compact weeks and also in your end of year exams as well. You really can't dwell on your problems and the mistakes that you made because you have a next assessment coming up. Any time you spend dwelling is time you've not used to prepare for the next assessment. I think this way of thinking really helped me take that initial step of putting all that behind me and moving forwards. After taking that initial step, I think there are 2 practical steps that you can take. Number 1 is figuring out what went wrong. So what went wrong in your preparation? Did you start preparing too late? Did you spam a lot of questions that weren't that necessary? What happened? Write it down and make sure you avoid it for the next assessment. So at least you've learned something from this mistake. And secondly is to devote your energy towards your next assessment. Say you did badly in the comparative SAC, what's next? The end of your exam. Start going over your text response, going over your argument analysis, and really preparing yourself for that end of year assessment. Right now, we're at the end of August, you still have assessments to come, so you can't let one mistake that happened earlier in the year affect the rest of the year. For me personally, there are 2 main instances that I recall where I underperformed. One was the first ever English SAC, the creative one. So I scored 28 out of 30, which was pretty demoralizing considering you're not meant to lose that many marks in a creative SAC, and it was my worst SAC, and it was the first SAC of English in the year as well. Now, I zoomed my teacher afterwards because I was a bit annoyed, a bit worried, and what she said to me, and I really appreciate it, was you just got to move on. You got to smash at the next SACs, just say, who cares with that SAC, whatever, it's behind me, and let me just really work hard and really ace all the rest of these SACs. I think that's a really important mentality to have. Now, secondly, another SAC where I didn't do as well as I wanted was an unseen SAC in Latin. I think I dropped 1 mark there, and it's like you can make a couple mistakes and not drop a mark. And so when I dropped a mark, I was a bit upset, and it was the only mark I dropped that year as well. I found that the periods where I was working really hard was after those two disappointments. After the Latin SAC, I really just started putting my energy into Latin, into memorizing the lines. I had all this extra energy because of the fact that I had disappointment and I didn't want that to happen again. So I just really made sure to stay on top of the work, really focused, looked at the literary techniques, and did the unseens very meticulously. Now for English as well, after that SAC, I dropped 1 mark in text response and I full marked the rest of the SACs. I just really told myself I got to work hard. And one thing I learned from that first SAC was you can't write too similar to the teacher's style. Now for creative, I thought you had to emulate the teacher's style because a person older than me told me that, but each year is different. So what I really learned is to be flexible. So after my 2 disappointments were also the times where I learned a lot and worked really hard for that period of time afterwards. And I think definitely that is the best way for you to get yourself out of that bad SAC score ditch. This next little segment is just my opinion about ATAR calculators and all those people commenting SAC scores and whatever in VC discussion space. So I know you guys might be worried and that might cause you to go on calculator and ask people for their scores, seeing if you can achieve a good study score with your marks. So firstly, to address the ATAR calculator part, what I think people should do is just at the start of the year or at the end of year 11, just type in their subjects, type in some study scores that might be possible for them to achieve and see what ATAR they get. Maybe play around with it a little bit to see your ideal score, what score, if you did really well, you could get. But after that, just forget about it because it's genuinely useless. Playing around with that does nothing. It either adds worry to you, which is probably what it does, and you don't get anything out of it. It's not like you've gotten smarter or learned a bit more about your English text through doing that. And I think it's just a bad sort of numbers game. And with VCE in general, you don't want to think too much about numbers. You just do your best and let VCAR crunch out their numbers, do their formulas, whatever. Thinking about that is pretty much useless. Secondly, with wanting to know people's SAC scores and their ultimate study score. So this is firstly misleading because different SAC scores at different schools, or the same SAC score at different schools could mean different things. So a lot of schools have varying difficulties of SAC, so 60% at this school could have been a really good score because of how hard their SAC was. But another school, maybe it just means that person was not that good at the subject and didn't do that well, even though the SAC wasn't terribly hard. Now also nothing good can come out of knowing this information of someone's SAC scores and someone's ultimate study score. Say this person had similar SAC scores to you and they end up achieving a lower study score than you wanted. In that case, you'll just be disappointed. You'll be like, I've lost all hope of attaining my prerequisite. I can't get that ideal ATAR or study score or whatever I wanted, which is bad because you'll be upset and that will affect your preparation. The second scenario is that they kind of do better than you expected. So this guy gets the same study scores as me, same SAC scores as me, and he got above the study score I was aiming for. I guess that's good in the sense that you might feel a little bit uplifted, but I think it's also a false sense of security because you practically haven't done anything. You haven't, studied hard in your Latin lines. You haven't learnt more about your text. All you've done is sort of okay, this guy didn't do that well in his SACs, but he did well in the exam, which doesn't mean that you'll do it as well. So I think it will lull you into a false sense of security. And a much better way of feeling better about your scores is just to work hard and do well in your trial exams and do well in the past papers and the next upcoming SACs. So ultimately, don't focus too much on the numbers. I've even had people ask me how will your SAC scores be converted in the end of the year because they're scaled a little bit. That really just doesn't matter. Knowing that will not help you at all, and it's just I feel like some people feel like if they have a better understanding of the system, it's somehow cooler or it will make them do better, which is just not true. Keep the numbers, leave the numbers to the VCAR people to smash out in their little computers or their CAS calculators, whatever they have, and we can just focus on working hard and let our work dictate our results. Finally, pressure with exams. Now this is a big one, whether it's your oral exam, whether it's your final year exam. And this was kind of be in two parts. One is how to deal with that stress when you're quite a while out, like right now. And secondly, how to deal with stress when you're a bit closer to the actual exam. So when you're far out from the exam, I think it's a combination of feeling mentally less stressed and also like practically working your way out of that stress. So I think mental alleviation of your stress is definitely important. So like watching my videos helps some people, watching inspirational videos on YouTube, that might help you feel a bit better. And I think that's good because mental state is really important, particularly with COVID and with lockdowns. But I think if you want to have a very long lasting and actually like, okay, I'm one step further towards my goal kind of improvement, then just work. Really. Think about your weaknesses, think about all the SACs, all the tests you've done up till now, write down your mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and in that way you're practically getting better. So those videos that you watch, those motivational quotes you see, they sort of get you amped up to run the race, but what actually gets you each step closer to the finish line and is doing the work. If you haven't checked out my video on when you should start doing practice exams, you can check it out now, but now's a good time for a lot of you to start doing your exams for many of your subjects, and I think that's a really practical way of doing better. You can see your improvement with each exam. You can see that parts which used to be a weakness, fuel cells or antiderivatives, slowly improving, and that's a really good way to gain sort of long-term benefits, both mentally and like in terms of your actual grades as well. With that stress that comes right before a SAC or an exam, my English teacher once again gave me some really good advice. She said to me, Darren, the very good students, they sit the exam under pressure, they write well, and they do well. But the excellent students, the best students, the top students, they enjoy doing the exam. Now this is the English exam, which for those of you who might not know, it's 3 hours, 3 essays. And it's pretty intense. But she said that to me and I realized that I really had to change my approach. Because with exams, you've put in all the hard work already. You've had your breakdowns, you've worked hard into those late nights, you've had your ups and downs with all your SACs. Now's the time for you to really perform. Let's say you haven't done as much work as you wanted. It's better to go in there confident than not confident still. It's still a chance for you to grab all the marks that you can, and for those little parts you haven't studied, just do your best. For those of you who have done every little preparation that you possibly could beforehand, there is definitely no need to be stressed. Just be confident, go in there, show off what you've learned, what you've done, how much effort you've put in. The only thing that you want to avoid is regret at the fact that I was so stressed that I was paralyzed, I couldn't do the work properly. I knew the content, but I just couldn't get the answer down. That's one thing you really want to stay away from. So the best mentality is just go in there, enjoy it, and really think to yourself, how good could this go? How well can I possibly do? Let's test that out. I think that's a very fun way of framing the exam. Just saying to yourself, okay, I've done all the work. Let's see how this goes. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's video. Once again, with my YouTube lives, just stay on the watch out for any announcements on my YouTube, on my Instagram about what that will actually entail. I'm still working out the details. I hope you found today's video useful. Hopefully it's tackled some of the issues you guys might have, any resentment, any disappointment you have towards yourself and towards your performance in previous SACs, and also might help alleviate your stress a little bit for the end of the year exam. So after this video, work hard, do your work. Good luck for it all, good luck for your SACs, and I'll see you all in the next video.